The PC case may be one of the most important parts of your entire build. I know it's just something to hold your components, but it's better than putting everything on the motherboard box. Am I right? Case manufacturers provide things such as RGB lighting, plenty of airflow, and glass side panels to show off your beautifully designed build. Of course, at a good price. Today, we'll be looking at a PC case that gives you all of this with a little extra, starting right now. This is the Antec NX416L. It's a mid-tower chassis that can fit up to 11 fans, and it comes with 3 pre-installed. Most PC case fans are 120 millimeters, like the one that Antec has included at the rear of the case. The front fans aren't 120s, they're not even 140s, they are 160 millimeters each. The benefit of this is you push a lot of air without a lot of effort, keeping your temps and noise level down. The case is only available in 2 options, black or white, but they come in the same configuration and at the same price. On Amazon, the 416 is priced at $100 US. It has, however, been consistently on sale, $10 less than its list price, and currently it's got a 20% off coupon, bringing it down to $71.99. Discounted PC parts are always a good deal. If you want to take advantage of this, I'll link it below in the description. Why don't we take a closer look at the 416 and I'll let you decide if it's worth the money. This is probably the most in-depth review video you'll find on the Antec NX416L anywhere. And if you like videos on PC parts looking at every angle and specific detail, you might want to get subscribed because that's exactly what you'll find here on the channel. I always start each walk around on the view window side. The tempered glass side panel is hinged and magnetic. It's not tinted if you're wondering. Removal is easy by pulling outward on the plastic handle, then lifting the glass off the hinges. The inside of the case is spacious without creating a large footprint. It accommodates ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX size motherboards. There's 2 beveled cable pass-throughs along the top, 2 down the side, and 3 along the bottom. Speaking of the basement, it's completely ventilated on both the top with a honeycomb pattern and on the side with a finer mesh. This allows tons of airflow to get to your GPU. They also include a power cable pass-through for the GPU as well. There's a 120mm fan at the rear with a generous amount of cable length. This fan is one of 3 included in the case. One interesting feature of note is there is a hidden pass-through on the motherboard tray. Removing 4 small screws at the back allows you to push up on this plastic panel to reveal space for 2 additional SSDs, fans, or even radiator mounting. Speaking of fans and radiators, support in this thing is crazy for its size. Up top, you can do 3 120s or 2 140s. You can fit 2 120mm fans on the motherboard tray. The front panel can accommodate 3 120s, 3 140s, or the 2 160s included and pre-installed. I'd stick with those. You're paying for them, why not use them? At the back is space for only a 120mm fan, and like I said, it's pre-installed. But the power supply shroud can fit 2 120mm fans on top of it as well. Radiator support is all the way up to a 280 or 360mm in the front or top, up to a 240mm on the motherboard tray, and I guess you could fit a 120mm at the back, but who needs that with all this extra space? Let's talk clearances, because if your parts can't fit, then what's the point? If you're using an air cooler, the max height is going to be 165mm. The max power supply that can fit is 240mm. That's including the cables. GPU length is a little more complex. If you remove the included fans, which I don't know why you would, you can fit up to a 415mm long card. With the front fans installed, you've still got 390mm of space. Now, if you decide to use a radiator mounted on the motherboard tray, you only have 280mm for your GPU because of how far into the case it will go. They didn't give any numbers for a front-mounted radiator, so I did a little bit of measuring of my own. I suggest you keep the GPU under 350mm if you plan on going this route. Up front, things are simple yet impressive. The entire front panel is plastic, with most of it being fine mesh. Only the bottom is solid, and since there aren't any fans down there, it doesn't hinder performance at all. This design provides lots of airflow and a nice view of the 2 160mm RGB fans provided. It's also worth noting that the front panel doesn't have any open areas at the bottom like in some cases, allowing unfiltered air to enter and create more dust than necessary. It does make it kind of tough removing the front panel though. I guess it doesn't matter since most of you won't need to do this anyway. The top panel is where all your I/O is located. They've got a power button, an LED button for manual control of your RGB, hard drive and power lights, a combined headphone and microphone jack, one USB 3.0 Type A port, and a USB Type C port. There's also a removable magnetic dust filter for the top too, but you can take this off if you have your top fans or your radiator set to exhaust. Now there's a lot to see on the cable management side. The rear panel is removed with 2 thumb screws. They aren't captive, so be careful you don't lose them when you remove the panel. The panel itself has mesh with larger holes than the front to allow airflow through the motherboard tray, in case you decide to side mount a radiator or fans. They have another magnetic dust filter on the inside of the panel, just like up top. Antec has given you 24 millimeters of cable management space with the NX416. You've got mounting locations for up to 5 2.5-inch drives or 2 3.5-inch drives. Just take note that if you decide to use the 2 3.5-inch drive locations, this will drop down your 2.5 locations by 2, so you've only got 3 left. They've got plenty of cable tie downs and a large pass-through for CPU cooler mounting if you decide to upgrade this later. There is only one SSD mount tray located above the power supply because the RGB and fan hub takes the other slot. I'd rather have this than another SSD plate, if I'm being honest. This hub provides support for up to 6 fans. Since 3 are pre-installed, you could add 3 at the top or even plug in the 3 RGB connectors from a 360mm radiator and control all of your RGB in your case from this one hub. Since I had a chance to build in the NX416L, I'll give you my thoughts on the case, and I'll start with the positives. My favorite thing about the case is the RGB PWM fan hub. I love that these are becoming more mainstream in budget cases these days, because I noticed a lot of you comment that you don't have a 5-volt addressable RGB header on your motherboard. This solves that problem because you don't even need it. It does include one in case you want to plug it in and control it through software, but the included switch at the top that's labeled LED gives you a ton of different colors and effects to scroll through with just the push of a button on the top of your case. Next, the 416 gives you plenty of tie-down points for easy cable management. This is a big deal for me because I'm so particular with keeping things neat and tidy. I can always appreciate more tie-downs. The mesh front with 2 gigantic 160mm fans is a big deal. It looks good since the fans are evenly spaced within the front panel, and because they're so big, they don't need to spin as fast to produce good airflow. If you're going to use this case for your build and you decide to go with liquid cooling, I suggest you put the radiator up top. That way you can utilize the 2 160mm fans for airflow into the case. The last thing I really liked is the magnetic hinged tempered glass. The magnets are pretty strong, so it doesn't just swing open on its own, and it adds a more premium feel to a case that costs under $100. Now, everything isn't all peaches and strawberries. There are some negatives. My first question is, why have a honeycomb effect with a mesh side panel under a magnetic dust filter? I'd recommend removing the material to create better airflow and just have it open once you take off the plastic cover. The back panel already has so much restriction, you don't need to add any more. Speaking of unnecessary, I don't know why companies feel the need to put a sticker right in the middle of their fans. If they aren't perfectly straight, you get something like this, and it looks like the fan is about to fall off. I get the branding aspect, but is it worth it? Captive screws on the back panel would have been a nice feature at this price point. It's not a deal breaker, but for the $100 price range, it's a nice to have. Finally, the cable cutout for the GPU power cables could have been a little bit to the left, since most GPUs power connectors end right at the edge of your motherboard. All in all, the Antec NX416L is a solid case. It's got excellent airflow, 3 addressable RGB fans, and a hub to control everything. Oh, don't forget about that sweet hinged side glass. The only thing I'd like to see is a price drop. If this could be had for around $60 to $70 all the time, it'd be no contest. What do you think? Is the 416 worth $100 to you, or is there something better that you'd recommend? If the NX416 isn't for you, but you're still looking for a good PC case, I've got plenty of options that you can check out right over here because this video is done. And as I always say, I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel, and I'll see you in the next one.